It back like a cup with a rock or a piece of surgical tubing that you have with a clip like wrapped around your arm, so that now the net is like this on both sides. Now, as time goes by, the fish come right back. They're now right back where they were before you pushed them off. You take those same chaser poles and drive them into the fence net. Tap, 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 tap. And if it's small fish like potter's angels, chevron tangs, what have you, they're diving down inside of the pretties or what have you, they'll come back up. And once they hit the net, if there's enough of them, hey Ben, and you're interested in catching them, you take out your handy hand net and catch them off the fence net. Does this make sense so far? So here's an example. This is my old friend Anthony Calpo. I don't know, he's still looking debonair, wearing a wetsuit. He's never been diving once in his life. But in some examples of poles, sometimes you use little Hawaiian slings, those yellow or orange pole spears, without the tip on it. You don't need the spear. You're just using that to tap the bottom. And here's actually a netting in process. You see in this case somebody is using a net that's pretty obvious. It's just for photographic purposes. Most of the nets, you make them yourself. They have a little rim around them. It has plastic so that when it hits the bottom it doesn't tear the netting. But otherwise the net's pretty invisible. But this basically shows that you've driven this wrasse into the net and you're hand netting off of it. Something to tell you about these things, there's certain fishes that you don't want in your net. Like if you're very lucky, like one time I was diving and a blacktip reef shark, which kind of sells for big money, diver pay, because you're not out there fishing for fish, you're fishing for money. So all of a sudden behind me and my partner, whoo, comes this blacktip reef shark right into the net. Well, we dropped everything else and grabbed the shark. It was the big money. But also we grabbed the shark because that son of a gun was doing what this fishes do very often. Triggerfish and parrotfishes, they hit the net and what do? They don't stop. They just chew a hole and go right through it. And not just them, they're like, hey guys, come on! Let's all go! You can hear them laughing underwater. No. If you see these individuals and they're hitting the net, you actually reach over, pull down the float line and help them over the top. Let them swim away. Goodbye.
How did you catch them then?
Oh, we're going to get to that. Good question. So, just to tell you, that's it, Bob, you convinced me. I'm moving to the tropics. I'm tired of British Columbia. Come on, let's become fish collectors. This is an example of just a bait receiver or a bait box. I'm sure you guys have them here. It has a lid that's spring-loaded where you can put the animals in and they can't swim back out. And some other sort of collection bucket here. And a tether, a line that has usually a weight on the bottom and a float at the top that you attach your catch buckets to for when you go back to the surface and have to pull them up slowly so they don't explode from their gas bladders expanding. And to tell you, if you go, I'm really handy like so many of the people here, I want to make my own stuff, here comes a complete list of the parts and materials to make them. And to tell you, unfortunately, there's some movements afoot to shut the industry down in many places in the world, including here, but in particular on What Media today, some friends sent a note from Hawaii that the fishes there are now being counted as animals and under the rules of the Humane Society. And so they have some ridiculous requirements. One is they won't let the people clip the fins or the tangs, the spines of surgeon fishes, which is a very, very bad idea not to clip them, because once they get in the collection bucket, they're jamming around. Anything else in the bucket turns into bouillabaisse. It's very dangerous. Even dangerous for the diver in your hand. But to tell you, most of the fishes, not all of them, for instance, the hawk fishes, cerridids, just like ethiostomids, the darters, they don't have gas bladders. So you can pull them up immediately, even from great depths, and they won't explode. The gas bladder won't get bigger and bigger. But most advanced bony fishes do have a hydrostatic mechanism. They have like a balloon inside of them that is closed. Some of them are open to the throat. They can just like koi carp blow bubbles back out of their throat. But most advanced bony fishes have a closed gas bladder, so they can't change vertically very quickly. Otherwise their eyes, their tummy, their anus, everything kind of pops out. No fun. So many of those fishes we needle. We take a small diameter syringe and actually insert it into the side. And depending on the species of fish, there's different ways of seeing about where you need to insert the needle. And we either release the gas all at once, or even leave, if it's an expensive organism, leave the needle in there and bring it up, and the gas slowly comes out as you raise the fish up. Otherwise, if you have plenty of time, like you're on your second dive and you're going to have lunch on the boat, you just go up, and then every like 5 minutes you pull the net up like another meter. So most of the fishes are collected in pretty shallow water, 40, 50, 60 feet. There's also limits, of course, on the divers themselves. You don't want to be too long, too deep. Okay, and so from there, pretty typical. You're on a boat. Generally, you motor back into the harbor and transfer the organisms to a holding facility. Okay, and so some examples: the surgeon fishes, the Saganas, the rabbit fishes, most butterfly fishes, most all the wrasses, they're collected in fence nets. The majority of fishes are. The hand nets, I kind of mentioned to you before. This friend of mine, Steve, makes the super nets. But you can make them yourself. Made from all sorts of stuff. I like to make the frame out of a piece of Type L copper, because especially some people like Tony Nahaki, who collects centropyge angels in Fiji, he collects them just with a goose or a piece of copper pipe that he can bend also to fit inside rocks, and he puts the net on the hole that the fish is most likely to come out on the other side. You want to be able to bend the frame of the net so that the fish can't get around it. Does that make sense? You can see some of these nets, we use a long piece of material, because sometimes the edge of the net wears off or gets all in it. You can just pull that frame off the edge, the plastic frame, pull the net up a little bit and put the frame back on, so you can keep fishing it. So believe it or not, there's some marine fishes you can catch actually in your hands. Believe it or not, this expensive butterfly, the Tinker's butterfly, it's an endemic. It's only found in Hawaii. It actually is so curious about humans and lives at such a depth that it'll swim up to you underwater. So as you're at great depths, people are like, how are we going to find these things? You pick up 2 rocks, get them together, rub them together, and lo and behold, here come the fish. They're like, oh, what the heck is that? Look at that idiot with the fins on. So Royal Brahmas, these things are all being eaten by the lionfish now in the tropical West Atlantic. You can catch them also, just with it. You don't need a fence net. You can just have a hand net. Believe it or not, the holo holo, this is the banded angelfish, also from mainly from Hawaii. The strachids or box fishes, they're pretty slow. So just like big aquariums, it's sometimes pays to have 2 hand nets, but you don't need the fence net. You just catch them with the hand net. There's all sorts of other techniques, and once again, always rely on the local people. You go, well, how do the local people catch this stuff? That's always a good question to ask. They know how to do it. For years, I could never tell how people caught dartfish. Are there many scuba divers here? Well, quite a few, huh? Dartfishes are quick. They're like darts, right? So you're like, dang, come on, trying to catch them, come on. Anyway, I saw the people do it finally. They had an acrylic rod, a clear plastic rod, and a piece of square material on the end of the acrylic rod. And we're looking, and here are the dartfish, maybe a meter and a half away.